It's time to check in with Asterion and Leo at the Minotaur Hotel again. And we left things just at the start of Chapter 3. You're back in the ruined hallway. It stretches into the lobby and further into the hotel. Up ahead, something catches your eye. A leather-bound volume, not too different from the check-in register you found in the reception office, has been carelessly thrown on the floor. A cursory look reveals most of its pages have been torn out. The cover's backside contains something written in the same script from the deed. The glyphs shift and twist under your gaze, marching into place the harder you look. After a few minutes, however, it turns uncomfortable, as if your mind was being drilled by the paper. You take a seat to the lounge's bar, just a foot away from the green glass shards scattered about over the purple stain. You lose yourself in deciphering this script. Asterion's sentence. Hereby the gods of Olympus sentence the prisoner Asterion to eternal damnation for his meekness and cowardice in the face of adversity. With this sentence his prison is created, a labyrinth born out of the god's ichor. The labyrinth shall welcome lost mortals with nowhere to go. Among them a jailer will be picked to command and rewrite the realm. The jailer in the labyrinth's mission is to secure the prisoner's eternal torture. The jailer shall enjoy power and freedom to rewrite the labyrinth as to better enact his vision. Asterion of Crete, adopted son to King Minos, and every drop of his blasphemous blood is hereby sentenced to the labyrinth. By this decree the god's will is done. You're pulled from your trance by the bang of a door closing down the hallway. The light around you has shifted. You look back to the garden and the sun is already setting. Time passed in a flash, and now the clop of hooves on marble floor echoes through the corridor. The Minotaur enters the lounge, sees you and bows. Hello, Asterion. Did you sleep well? I did, Master. I must thank you for allowing me rest. Well, that's good to hear. I take it you have no issue with your bath? I did not. Asterion stands up and looks you directly. I should ask for your forgiveness. I left you waiting without providing a tour of the hotel or its inner workings. That was awfully unfitting of my position as the hotel's keeper. I am at your disposal now, however. He looks behind you, the wall covered by dozens of bottles of liquor. Could I provide Master with a drink? Would that please you? Well, I don't think those are safe. I checked a few of them. They weren't smelling right. That will not be an issue. I can muster more for Master. Very well, go on. The Minotaur walks behind the counter. The world blinks around you, and when you look again he holds a bottle of whiskey. He walks with a spring in his step, but stops once he sees the purple stain on the floor. Whatever smidgen of chirpiness was on his face is gone. He lowers himself to the floor and runs a hand over the dried out wine. He tries scraping the dust off the ground, then rubbing his hand on it to no avail. What's on your mind? The Minotaur speaks without looking up to you. He went all the way, the previous master. Locking me away wasn't enough. He had to kick out all the guests and go as far as breaking the bottles. He knew the wine could heal me. I had one in the infirmary in case I got hurt and needed help, and one here for my enjoyment. I hope he didn't break the others as well. It's the one thing I cannot summon. The Minotaur rises up and supports himself on the counter. He summons a rag and goes through the motions of dusting. No matter. Now, what is Master's want? I should tell you up front, the hotel's liquor is quite impressive. I think he needs it more than I do. Asterion may be up and walking, but he's still far from being well. He can use the help. You mentioned having more wine bottles. Where are they? I'm sure I can fetch them for you. Asterion looks off to the side, seemingly thinking about your proposal. Well, it is not proper for the keeper to be assisted by the master. I suppose, however, it would be my duty to take you there regardless. If memory serves me well, there ought to be a bottle in the master's quarters. The two of you return to the hotel's lobby. The spiral staircase, now tinted orange by the skylight, remains as welcoming as before. The fourth floor has no doors, however. Here, this floor is dedicated to the master and those he allows in. The hotel bends to the master's will. Wish for a door and it will be done. My power is similar to yours, albeit much weaker. In due time, the hotel shall conform from the ground up to your vision. It barely requires you to focus. Just a passing thought is enough to make the hotel flicker in and out of reality. The door welcomes you. It flickers away after you and Asterion cross its threshold. The living room ahead of you seems to have resisted the damage of time better than the rest of the hotel. It is dusty, and some chunks of the walls show the beginnings of mould. There is nothing compared to the devastation you saw in the kitchen. Asterion says nothing at first. His gaze seems to be lost in the distance as he walks around inspecting the room. There are lines of wooden carvings on shelves. During the Minotaur's silence, you take the chance to explore it yourself. The living room was a sprawling lounge made to receive guests, both in great number and for an intimate get-together. Under the sunset's light, the wooden floor colours the room with a soft, warm hue. There's a master bedroom with a vast closet still filled with clothes. None you'd use, however. It's a wardrobe pulled straight from the 30s, organised with a tireless devotion. There's also a large office, the kind you'd expect from an important executive. Sitting on the desk is a selection of finely decorated fountain pens and a stash of documents, for the most part written in delicate calligraphy. Most of the documents are signed by a Master Jean-Marie, although a handful bear an illegible scribble for a signature. There's a finely furnished bathroom off in a tight hallway to the side of the living room. At the end of the corridor, after a sharp turn, there's a cramped, windowless chamber. There's a handful of remnants of the living room's warmth, albeit muted. The wood's colour is faded, the ceiling is a metre lower, there's little to no furniture. There is, however, an austere bed that looks larger than your typical single. Beside it is a tiny chest of drawers with a handful of dusty poetry books piled on top alongside more wooden carvings. This room affords privacy, but little else. Asterion is going over it when you arrive. He cradles every wooden carving in the room, examining them one by one. Many of the carvings depict bulls. He opens one of the books and a page marker falls from it. He looks down at it but doesn't bother picking it up. The Minotaur opens a small closet off the side and takes out what seems to be a long piece of fabric. He smells it, or perhaps hugs it to his chest. His bony snout leaves a stain of blood dust on it. He sighs and shudders. The Minotaur looks back to you, acknowledging your presence the first time since arriving here. I'm frightfully sorry, I was lost in thought. This floor is the Master's quarters. It contains your bedroom, office, living room, and any other installations you wish to add. This room we are in, this was my bedroom. I serve the hotel, but above all else I serve the Master. It is often considered convenient to have me around, as I can cook and help the Master however he sees fit. There were masters who had children, for instance. I would assist in tending to them, providing entertainment and play while the Master rested. Master Jean-Marie was a man of culture. He enjoyed having me play my lyre for him at night. The Minotaur's gaze wanders away again. His hands caress a wooden carving. The wine should be in the kitchen. The two of you go there. This time there's no purple stain on the floor or glass shards thrown about. The empty bottle is gingerly placed on the counter beside the sink. Asterion shrinks down again. At least it did not damage Master Jean-Marie's carvings. Was that the last bottle? No. I have one last bottle stashed away, and I'm sure it must be intact. There's no way he learned about that one. It's all the way downstairs. All the way? Well, about 30 floors down, yes. Worry not, Master. It's getting late already. I can prepare you a proper meal and dust off your quarters. You may rest for the night. I shall deal with this affair after you've gone to sleep. No. We're gonna get it. No, I can't let you do that. You're in no state to go up and down 30 flights of stairs. Tell me where to find the bottle. Well, I go down there, you can check over the quarters, if you want to go over the previous master's belongings. For a single moment you see Asterion looking off to the side, pondering before giving his response. Very well, I obey. The 25th underground floor is much like this one, without doors. You may command the hotel to reveal the way. It's where we've stored things over the centuries. All the way down the corridor there's a wall painting. The bottle should be in front of it. You don't waste any time. As you're leaving, however, Asterion speaks up. There's an edge of anxiety in his voice and a petulance in speaking to you without being addressed first. Master, if you would allow me to provide a warning, that floor is where we keep the belongings of previous masters. Those are cherished, fragile heirlooms. I would plead with you to avoid touching them. You answer with a thumbs up as you summon the door out. Once more you're enveloped by the gentle sunlight draping from the skylight. Your echoing footsteps have a sonority to them, a twinge of life in this abandoned hotel. Once you reach the ground floor, however, your path becomes darker. Your footsteps now sound shy in front of an oppressive veil. 25 floors to go. As darkness grows, you summon a flashlight. You look down. The bottom is just a handful of floors down. A pathway leads outside, into the valley. The 25th floor cannot come soon enough. A shy plaque on the featureless wall greets you. The door flickers in front of you with a similar eagerness. The hallway extends far into the distance, its sides lined with all sorts of objects. Armour sets, furniture, statues, treasure chests full of trinkets from all ages. You follow Asterion's advice to keep to yourself and, like a penguin, waddle your way into the darkness. As you reach the corridor's end, the objects take a sharp turn to what you'd expect from a museum on ancient Greece. There's the wall painting Asterion told you about. Right in front of it is a sealed bottle of wine. It is covered in dust, its label is faded. Off to the side there's a glass case containing a jagged purple rock in the vague shape of a double-headed axe. It drips an oily, dark red liquid down the case. The goo is pooled on the case's bottom, wafting an unpleasant bloody stench. The case is locked by an old padlock. You got what you came here for. You make your way back upstairs. The setting sun's orange tones colour the entire apartment. It turns the suspended dust into the air into thousands of sparkling diamonds. The previous master's carvings stare at you, wide-eyed and beckoning you further into the quarters. The smell of old dust seems so small compared to how sweetly the room welcomes you. If a place could ever be alive, and if it could ever be naked, this is it. The hotel itself embraces you, its intimacy laid bare. Nothing moves, and Asterion is nowhere to be seen. Silence reigns, save for a faint hum of life. You leave the wine bottle on the living room table. You delve deeper into your quarters, and the hum grows louder and sharper. It's like breathing, ragged and pained. The dust visible into the sunlight shudders. The sound is coming from the office. Asterion, standing over the desk, is back to you, sobbing. Your footsteps are not enough to make him aware of your presence. The Minotaur sobs again and again, each one coming from deeper inside of him. They begin meek, hardly more than a snort. But he lays his hands on the desk and curls forward. His vertebrae jut sharply from his deathly thin skin, made more obvious by how he hunches over. He spits out a sob from the depths of his lungs. The dam bursts. He breaks into wave after wave of grunts and half-muffled screams. He presses his face against the desk and claws at it, leaving his marks in the pristine wood until he falls to the ground curled up like a child. He sees you then with his tear-drenched eye and ignores your presence. Master or not, you are too small. He curls further into himself, mouth covered by his hands. He lets out another muffled yell. The Minotaur's voice breaks midway through and he goes silent. Even his mouth is still locked in agony. Asterion looks up to you, aware of your presence, and makes no effort to hide or cower. In fact, he tries to speak, but you cannot understand his slurred words, only that his voice has a tone of welcoming. You cross the gap separating the two of you one step at a time. Asterion's eye does not avert from you. You sit by his side, back to the desk, and only then his gaze drops down to the floor in further sobbing. You drape an arm over his shoulder and pull him to you. The Minotaur doubles down on his crying, now muffled by his shirt. His fingers dig into you. They'd hurt were he not so emaciated. You rub the back of his head and let the Minotaur go at his own pace. As the sun sets further, darkening the room, his crying grows quieter and more discreet as well. When all is dark except for the stars shining beyond the window, Asterion's hands relax and he slouches fully onto your chest. He almost seems to be asleep. You catch his eye looking up at you. Asterion's pacified, but you give him a few more minutes to make sure. His fingers dig at you one last time right as he sighs. You pat him on the back and help him up. He says nothing about what just happened, but accepts your hand. And when you leave the office, he stays close by your side. Back in the living room, you guide Asterion to the sofa. He sits without questioning, but accompanies you with his gaze as you open the wine bottle and bring it over to him. It was just where you said it'd be. Asterion caresses the bottle. Thank you. Cheers. Asterion forgoes using the glass entirely. He leans his head to the side so the wine doesn't drip from his exposed jawbone and drinks straight from the bottle. He savours the first gulp. He sighs, leaning his head back and lets out a groan as his entire body relaxes. Then he returns to the bottle, this time drinking in earnest. From the corner of his eye he looks at you. A tinge of shame spreads on his face as a drop or two of wine drips from his exposed jaw. It doesn't take long for his arms start shaking, however, for his emaciated musculature holding the position for long as a challenge. You raise up a glass. Asterion takes the hint with a sideways smile. Once more, frightfully sorry, Master. Sometimes the beast gets the best of me. Even with the glass, he wastes no time and drinks the entire contents of the bottle without stopping, going so far as to shake the bottle to get the last drops. Asterion leans back on the sofa, a half-smile painted on his face. Well, thank you so much for the wine, Master. I feel better already. It won't be long now before it starts taking effect. Oh, don't mention it. It was nothing. Is that so? Master, if it is not impertinent of me, would you answer a few questions? Sure, I don't see how that could be a problem. I wish to know about the war. How did it end? War? Which war? The Second World War, the conflict between the Allies and the Axis. France was occupied. How did it end? Does France exist still? Yes, it does. France is doing fine. The Allies won the war. A lot of stuff happened since then. You briefly tell him France's history after the Second World War, especially the aftermath of the war. Oh, I'm so relieved to hear that. I spent all those years locked away thinking about it. Master Jean-Marie talked so many times about France. Paris this and that, but also about the countryside, the fields of lavender, the fragrances, the vineyards. All sorts of wine. Master Jean-Marie could never go a meal without a glass. He grew up in a village near Bordeaux, yes. He always said his village's wine was the best, period. Master Jean-Marie fought in the Great War too. He found his way to the hotel as a guest himself, a shell-shocked young man fresh off the battlefield. He inherited the deed from the previous master, and his rule over the hotel was a sight to behold. He was very kind, had a preference for bringing in victims of war. It wasn't easy caring for so many amputees and shell-shocked men, but it was worth it. He loved it here, but I suppose he loved France the most. I couldn't dissuade him from returning home to liberate his country. He died in 1944. I felt it right when it happened. Felt the bullet going through my head in the middle of the night. 1 week later, the next master arrived. Jean-Marie left a will giving the hotel's deed to his brother, Master Clément. Clément wasn't bad at first. He was very eager to please, to be of use to the guests. But there was something in him. Agreed, I suppose. To be merely liked wasn't enough, you see. He and Master Jean-Marie differed greatly. Jean-Marie had a vision to bring comfort to those affected by war. Clément, on the other hand, didn't want to be liked, but worshipped. He had his eyes on a guest, a woman who held his mind in the palm of her hand. I can only believe it went badly. And so well, you saw what he did to me. The guests are gone and the hotel has been left to rot. I had glimpsed the beginnings of madness in his eyes. I am no fool. It was clear he was no sane man, but I hoped he'd be harmless. We did meet him, I think. I believe I met this Clement you speak of. He gave me the hotel's deed, talked a bit about himself, said he squandered his one chance at something good. He's senile now, can barely talk right. He was looking for someone to take over the place because none of his kids would do it. When I checked the deed, it all seemed like gibberish too. I could only believe he wasn't thinking right and gave me some used napkin. He said he had done bad stuff during his life, but I never imagined it was as bad as what I saw here. Asterion's brow is furrowed and his eyes wander. He twiddles his thumbs while you speak. He's still alive, then? He closes his eyes, wrinkling his visage in anger. Asterion looks up to the ceiling. His voice is relaxed now, almost soothing, but it carries a spike of sobriety. Master, if once again you would accept it, may I ask a question? This one, however, may be out of place for me as keeper. You give him permission. The labyrinth was created to torture me as a punishment for my crime, but over the years the human masters chose to impose a different will onto this realm. It began with a young man who took pity on me, and over the generations it became a haven of the lost. Each master had a vision for it. We had a good run, a few good centuries ever since we started, until, as you saw, Clement came along. I wish to know your intentions. That is awfully out of place for me as prisoner. You are my captor and I shall obey whatever your will may be. Nonetheless, I wish to have my impertinent question answered if it isn't much. Is it your will to carry on with the hotel's mission? To offer sanctuary to those lost and with nowhere to go? I should let you know before you answer that I am used to suffering. I've been through a lot worse than what you saw today. If your will is to torture me like Master Clement did, then you need not pretend. However, you accepted my oath and took me into your service, and now you've treated me with kindness. I would believe then that you are not like him. So tell me, is your wish to uphold the hotel's mission to provide respite to those in need? Be honest if you will. My servitude to you remains regardless of your choice, as I have none myself. I didn't know what I was getting into when I accepted Clement's deed. A lot has happened in a single day, and I couldn't have imagined any of this from his ramblings. But yes, I intend to uphold the hotel's mission now. I want to be a good master to the hotel and to you. I'm not trying to trick you. By what you've told me, I'd have no reason to. Maybe it's hard for you to believe me right now, but I mean it. Asterion does not answer at first. Only his deep breathing cuts the room's silence. It's been so long. I don't know for how many years I was locked away. I must admit the mere thought of asking gives me chills. Master, can you imagine? For centuries I've been tending to this hotel. It was my mercy, what saved me from torture and gave me purpose. It was hard work, and not all masters have been kind over the centuries, but it was wonderful nonetheless. I enjoyed every moment of it. And then, Master Jean-Marie died. I could have done more to try and stop him. I should have. Then he came, Clement. I'm used to pain, but I'd grown accustomed to having people, a mission, a purpose. Being locked away didn't hurt half as much as having my guests kicked out. Today you freed me, took me into your service, and now you tell me you wish to be a good master, to the hotel and to me. Allow me to speak frankly. I'm afraid of you, terribly so. You are my jailer. Over the centuries I grew comfortable with enjoying my masters, but after Clement it's all come back to me. I am so afraid of what you can do to me into the hotel. There's no choice but to obey your every command. I'm so sorry for saying this. It is profoundly out of place for the keeper to address the master in such a way. I suppose that, even if I'm afraid of you, I've lost my fear of pain and overstepping boundaries. All of that said, despite my fear, I find myself wanting to believe you. Asterion gets up from the sofa and walks up to you. He's clearly tipsy, stumbling about as he approaches. The Minotaur kneels before you. I wish dearly for your words to be true. I am not afforded choice on whether or not I shall obey you. I am a prisoner. If indeed your words are true, if your heart is truly set on being a good master, then I shall follow you, not out of duty but out of want. And were I ever allowed true freedom, I would remain by your side. I swore to serve you, and now I swear to follow you, for as long as your word holds true. He looks up to you. The room is dark, lit only by moonlight coming through the window, but you can see a glimmer in the Minotaur's eye. You pull him from his kneeling position into a hug. He is light, barely heavier than a child. In your arms he is stiff and cold, but just your hands stroke his back, he returns the gesture and rests his muzzle on your shoulder. He sniffles once, twice, and presses his face into your neck. Thank you, master. He breathes in deeply as if learning your scent. Night quickly settles. The hotel has no electricity, but you can do with candles and lanterns. Your shadow on Asterion slither on the walls, trembling alongside the flickering flames. The master's quarters are filled with the velvety sounds of life, breathing, footsteps, furniture creaking under you. From outside, a passerby would see this ruined hotel with a single candlelit window. If he perchance tried exploring it, he'd only find unending hallways of black and white marble tiles, echoing with the rustling of his clothes. He could seek out the comfort of this candlelit room, but would never find it, locked away as it is behind a doorless wall. Silence drips back over the two of you. More often than not, Asterion is turned towards you, following with his gaze. Just when you realise how hungry you are, he summons a humble feast for you: fruit, cheese, water, even a regular bottle of wine. He turns his back to you to set the table. He stumbles a bit and a few apples roll off to the ground. You catch him giving you a sideways glance. His nostrils flare at his nervous breathing. Asterion seizes. His back broadens as he breathes in, and then his shoulders slouch forward with his exhale. He gazes back at you, as if trying to say something. After a few seconds he returns to setting the table. His tail flicks behind him, perhaps even with some chirpiness. When dinner is ready, he presents it to you with a half smile on his lips. Your candlelit dinner is simple and uneventful. Any offer to have Asterion eat alongside you is brushed off with a shake of his head. It's a long, deliberate movement. His single ear whips to and fro beside his head. You ask him if there's any way to restore the hotel's electricity. There is, yes. We must light the hotel's hearth, and of that we must use a special object. It is a set of bronze mirrors that focus sunlight. It generates a pure flame. It will bring the entire hotel back to life. Shortly after, with nothing else to do for the night, the both of you find rest in your respective rooms. The Minotaur dreams. Before Athens and Sparta there was Crete, where Zeus was born and raised. Wild goats left their cloven marks on its slopes, carved out a cooled magna from the age of the Titans. Its soil, rich and hard, bore the promise of prosperity. Crete was a cradle, safe and fertile for early mankind as it was for Zeus, first of the Olympians. His son Minos I made his way there and became its founder and king. When death came for him, Minos was made judge of the dead. His lineage bore many kings for Crete, the prosperous cradle of man. There was another who carried the name of Minos, a man who made a pact with Poseidon, god of the sea. From the foamy waters the Olympians sent a white bull to signal his favour, and in turn the man promised to sacrifice it. But Minos took for himself that which was meant for the gods. For his hubris Poseidon cursed his household. His wife Pasiphae was struck with lust for the beast, and ordered the legendary craftsman Daedalus to craft a hollow heifer. Pasiphae took the bull's lurch and became pregnant with its child. So was born the Minotaur. Pasiphae's infamy survives. Crete fell in favour of Athens, which in turn was dragged away by Rome, which too was consumed by time. But Pasiphae's disgrace remains, much like the tale of the cannibal half-breed she birthed survives. But for the Minotaur, she was Mom, and she called him Asterion, her starry-eyed son. He drank from her breast like any boy, and he played with his siblings, even if his visage betrayed the sin which begat him. The Minotaur dreams of the vast field of white asphodel flowers, where he'd go with his sister Ariadne, holding her fingers, where they would sit by a tree and he'd nap with his head on her thighs. Asterion dreams of Crete, the palace of Knossos where he was raised, and of his inescapable fate, the labyrinth crafted by Daedalus where he met his end. Before the first hairs of a beard would have sprouted were he fully human, he was carted off to a stone labyrinth deep within one of Crete's valleys. The exit was blocked off, and he was left with only an axe he could hardly raise. A decade passed before a visitor came. Asterion could no longer think. Language had escaped his mind altogether, so lonely had he become. His visitor, Theseus, had crossed the sea for the Minotaur's head. The hero expected a battle, but found only a beast deserving of mercy. Asterion did not reject the hero's pity. At last he dreams of the asphodel meadows. It's a mercy. It's the end of his suffering, but he awakens to the labyrinth again. He jumps from dream to reflection. Master Jean-Marie and Clément, the cold room, the new master, freedom from the darkness, food, and wine. Asterion grasps the dusty sheets. It's been decades since he slept on a bed. He feels no bed sores on his back. Instead of the cold room stench, there's only the slightly mouldy smell of his old room. His lips, half bull, half skeletal, threaten to curl into a smile, but doubt eats away at him, churns in his stomach. The Minotaur unceremoniously rises and opens a closet. No matter what comes next, he must work, and then work some more. While he checks his garments, he mumbles an old poem from memory. You came, and you did well to come. I longed for you, and you brought fire to my heart which burns high for you. These old clothes don't fit him. The mirror makes it clear how much of a disgrace he is. The gaping fleshless hole in his skull makes his eye cord bubble and threaten to burst from his mouth. But he's less of a disgrace than he was the day before, and for the last 80 years there is some mercy in that. He forces a half smile and goes out. As soon as he steps out, however, his ear flicks. He catches a distant tune, chirpy one could say, even joyous. It is faint but unmistakable. The smile disappears from his face. Dust diamonds float across the room, suspended in time. Merciless daylight pierces the windows. Your mouth is dry, your eyes red. The room is humid and growing hotter under the desert sun. Just outside you hear the clopping of hooves, very faint but noticeable, as if a certain Minotaur was trying and failing to be quiet. Your phone, now about to run out of a battery, says it's 6 a.m. You get up and go out to face the day. Good morning, Master. I hope you slept well. Asterion, what are those clothes you're wearing? It's what I used to wear. They may be a tad big right now, but that won't last. I'll be back to my old shape before you know it. I thought it inappropriate enough to spend a whole day naked in your presence, so this morning I set out to clothe myself. Do you like them? Yeah, they're okay on him, but I don't know, a little old-fashioned. Maybe something more modern would suit him. Well, I think you look good, sure. Those clothes are a bit old. How about wearing something more modern? I mean, we can just summon food and water here, right? Sure, I can get you some clothes too. Of course, Master. Just command and the hotel will bend to your will. The hotel flickers around you as reality rewrites itself. You picture a shirt you could see yourself wearing. It's a simple task. Something stylish and fitting for a Minotaur. Out of nowhere, a bundle appears in Asterion's hands. He goes away for a minute to try it out. So, this is what people wear nowadays? It seems oddly casual to me. But Master's will is my command. Well, it's quite comfortable. I like it. It's not as sharp, but... Yes, I do like it. Thank you. Shortly after, Asterion summons a simple breakfast for you. Bread, cheese and fruit. It is all he can offer now, seeing as the kitchen still doesn't have a working equipment. You take a seat while Asterion stands still with his back to the wall, looking at you. So, what do we have to do today? Any chores? There is one, but it is not something Master ought to worry about. The trinket I mentioned last night, the one which can light a pure flame. If Master so wishes, I can search for it, and then we shall be able to restore the hotel. But I can help, it's no trouble. It's not like I have anything else to do while you're busy. I obey the Master's will. Silence hangs around you. The air is heavy as Asterion directs his gaze at you and the food on the table. This meal of fruit, cheese and bread is simple. One could say it is bland and boring, but the Minotaur looks at it with a fervour befitting of how thin he is. Saliva drips from his half-exposed jaw. It's not noticed the first drops fall to the floor. Once it starts seeping onto his chin's fur, he slaps his own cheek to cover the wound. His eyes go wide as he realises what just happened. Asterion looks at you, frightful of your reaction. It's a sorry sight. His gaze conveys a sense of dread, as it would seem he fully expects you to be angry at his appalling behaviour. You seem hungry, Asterion. Aren't you going to eat? I don't mind sharing a meal with you. It is improper for the servant to eat with the Lord. Master need not worry about me. I'll feed after you are done. Is that how the previous masters treated you? Yes, that has been our custom ever since. Well, for many centuries, shall we say. Master Jean-Marie in particular was quite strict with it. He appreciated order and hierarchy. In truth, he would have been appalled had he seen my behaviour yesterday, walking around naked, depending on the master for assistance. He was kind, but strict, and at times he would punish my insubordination quite harshly. After all, how else was I supposed to know what I did was wrong? But even then, he was among the kinder masters. Is that really necessary? Couldn't he just talk with you? He believed otherwise. Nonetheless, he had no qualms with treating me well when I exceeded his expectations. The Minotaur shifts on his hooves and looks down. His eyes grow duller. You would pet me at times, scratch my chin and behind my ears. He could be affectionate. I enjoyed my time with him. I did. He was a fine master for the hotel. It flourished under his rule. That is what matters. I am happy as long as the hotel is doing well, fulfilling its purpose, providing respite to those in need. It is, as I said, being locked away did not hurt nearly as much as seeing the place abandoned. Whether the master treats me well or not, ultimately it matters not. I was sentenced to eternal suffering, and to merely exist as I do now is better than I could ever have hoped for. So, I liked Master Jean-Marie. He was a good man. It is not my place to comment on the master's actions. Master Jean-Marie would have been furious had he heard this conversation. I suppose I have been awfully chatty today, have I not? Oh, I'm sorry for troubling the master. You're not bothering me. I want to know more about you, and, well, you're a fine company too. I wish you'd sit and share the meal with me, but since that's not something you're willing to do, I enjoy hearing you talk. It is not my place to comment upon your actions, my lord, but with your permission. You nod to the Minotaur. Asterion says nothing more. After you're done with your meal, the Minotaur retreats to the kitchen to wash the dishes. Only afterwards does he eat. He sits on the floor cross-legged and eats what remains of the food he summoned you. Even though the kitchen is nothing like the cold stone cell in which you met, the air of despondency which surrounds Asterion is so infectious it almost appears the same. You watch him take his meal of bread and cheese, slowly, painstakingly, as though the very sensation of eating was somehow foreign to him after innumerable decades left to starve. Since he has only half a face, you can see a cross-section of every motion as he bites, chews and swallows his meagre meal, trying his best to find an angle which affords him the dignity of not exposing himself any further. Caught as he is between the shame of meeting your eyes, the impropriety of turning to avoid you, and the embarrassment at letting you see inside his mouth as he eats, he struggles briefly before resigning himself to the lattermost option. Unsure how to further rouse him from his melancholy, you simply allow yourself to share the silence, awkward though it may be. For several minutes the only sound that can be heard is your own breathing, as well as the occasional splat when the Minotaur misjudges how much room he has to work with, some half-chewed food falls out through the skeletal side of his maw. However, shortly after Asterion chokes down the last morsel of cheese, a sudden sound snaps you both from the shared isolation. You can hear a flute playing from outside the apartment, piping away a blithely chipper tune. Asterion's ear flicks. He looks up to you, notices you heard it too, and freezes. Paleness creeps up his face. Drops of sweat fall from his brow as bits of saliva leak from his half-destroyed mouth. What's that? The Minotaur starts shaking. Please don't send me out to the valley, I beg of you. I'm sorry for not mentioning it earlier. I was going to, but I was so afraid. The torturer is down in the valley. Will try to bring me out. Please don't send me out. It takes a while to calm the Minotaur. Eventually takes you to the source of the hauntingly chirpy song, all the way down the spiral staircases to the very depths of the hotel. Asterion follows closely behind you, even if, in theory, he should be the one guiding ahead. The song grows louder as you go down. It is carried upwards by a draught coming all the way from below. The bottom floor is bare rock, a vaguely circular gallery with a single exit leading out to the valley. So far, the entire hotel, even if dilapidated, has only given you the impression it was lovingly built. It is not the case for this area at its lowest point. It was precariously carved out of the rock and left behind with an active distaste and carelessness. The sunlight pouring in from outside is harsh to your eyes, accustomed as they are to the darkness of the spiral staircase. In contrast, the song has a jolly touch to it, and it continues to throw Asterion into a nearly panicked state. He is there, the foreman of the labyrinth. He is called Argos. He'll hurt me if I go out, but he can't harm the master. The valley is laid out before you, painted in broad strokes of vivid orange balanced out with blue and golden hues in the sky. It is arid, but there is vegetation here. It's actually a soothing scenery compared to the thoroughly lifeless desert around the hotel. The wind even has a tinge of an early morning humidity. It would be no surprise finding some dew lingering in the bushes. It's quite peculiar. The valley seemed devoid of life when you look down at it from the hotel's lookout, but up close it is quite different. Just ahead are 2 rows of marble statues, each one standing 4 to 5 meters tall, and a single statue of a woman pointing the sword in her hand at the hotel's entrance. The song comes from the statue. You look back to Asterion. You can barely make out the blue flame in the cave's darkness. Praise the Olympians! The bones showed the truth. A new master is indeed upon us. A grey hand grasps the statue's shoulder, then a serpentine shape emerges and coils around the woman's neck. The wait has been long, my good lord. Oh, how I've anticipated this day when a human would again rise to fulfill the mission bestowed by Athena. I have spent decades lying here in this valley, as interested as a dung heap, ever since Master Clement left this realm, all by my lonesome. It is as the epic said, servants never do their work when their master's hand is no longer over them, for Zeus takes half the goodness out of a man when he makes a slave of him. Without a master, the Minotaur has failed his duties. The mighty hotel is in disrepair, and the valley's entities have outright vanished. There's no work to do, for master's not around, you see. Only I remain, waiting. But that shall change soon enough. I feel the earth stirring beneath the statues. Before you know it, the old kin of the gods will be among us once more. Now, my good master, do you know your most faithful follower's name? Has the Minotaur informed you of my pedigree? Master has not offered me a greeting nor a word of appreciation, so I can only assume the old bull neglects his duties again. Your face says it all. Very well, allow me to introduce myself. I am Argos Panoptis, Watcher of the Heifer, Worshipper of the Olympians. My pedigree is unmatched. I was born from the labyrinth itself, and there's no beast capable of evading my tracking. Nor any relic, for that matter. The snake holds a metal object under his arm, a set of bronze mirrors. Oh, my master, my eyes are up here. Your gaze would have me believe my form has caught your attention. Truly, I am a fine specimen, am I not? Or perhaps you are interested in this fine trinket I scavenged. It is a relic from ancient times. It focuses the sun's light into a single beam, generating a pure flame fitting for an offering. It is called the Mirror of Hestia. That's the goddess of the hearth. Keep her appeased and her blessing will tend to this realm. I found it here in the valley quite a while ago, discarded but not destroyed. I reckon Master Clement threw it off the cliff before his departure. He knew of the mirror's value. Surely he intended to cause harm. I know for a fact this trinket here holds quite the importance up there in that hotel you have. You see, without this it will remain in a state of disrepair. Only these little bronze dishes can light its sacred hearth. Perhaps is it Master's desire to possess such a thing? Now, it'll be my pleasure to be of use, such is my function, to serve the Lord of the Realm. I shall gladly consider offering it to you, if only Master realises a very simple request of mine. It is trivial, insignificant. I merely wish to have 2 minutes with the Minotaur right here in the valley. Order him to come out and stay for 2 short minutes. I shall not lay a finger on him, that I promise you. I merely wish to become reacquainted with the prisoner. How are we going to do this? Of course not, what do you think? I'm afraid I can't do that. Now why would that be? Has the Minotaur slandered my good name? How low of him. They say a coward's liver is pale. Perhaps one day I shall confirm it with my own eyes. Regardless, I would have Master know that I am merely a pious follower of the old ways. There is no reason to doubt my character, assuming that is that you hold dear to the word of the 12 Olympians. My duty is simple. I assist the Master in fulfilling his God's-given task of enacting the Minotaur's punishment. He was, after all, sentenced to eternal damnation. The lords of old were true heroes. They had the iron fist to do what the gods required. But then came the later lineage of weak-willed degenerates with sacrilegious ideas. Offering mercy to the damned. Such childish silliness. That one Master Clement, I'd say he was a welcome return to form. That's so uncreative. Merely locking the prisoner in a room scarcely compares to the might of olden times. Humans have grown awfully soft over the millennia. It's such a sorry sight. It pains me to think that the heritage of Theseus, Heracles and Odysseus is wasted. Heroes of old had no hesitation. Heracles' aim was true. With an arrow coated in the Hydra's blood he cleaved Gerion's skull, the monster of the Red Desert. Silver-tongued Odysseus, hero of Ithaca, blinded the Cyclops Polyphemus with a stake and bathed his palace in blood. And last but not least, Theseus beheaded the Minotaur with Crete's sacred labyrinth. Time and time again, Athena's heroes prevailed over Poseidon's bestial descendants, good master. The triumph of civilization, of mankind over chaos. To this day we honour Athena's and mankind's triumph here in this glorious realm. The Minotaur was sentenced to damnation, you see, and torturing him is an act of divine worship. Perhaps it is difficult for you to comprehend, fresh as you are in the labyrinth. Suffice it to say, this whole thing, the hotel, is a perversion of the Olympians' will. It was not Athena's wish to bring about mercy to the Minotaur, nor was it her intention this prison realm be used for leisure. You humans are frightfully gifted with ingenuity. Those weak-willed masters of centuries past corrupted this fine land into a den of degeneracy, all of it accomplished by abusing the laws of the realm. But two can play this game, mind you. If humans will make contracts to push us further from the gods, then I have proposals for the master which will bring us closer. In fact, I have a contract for you right here. I can only hope you'll see soon enough that the Minotaur you protect is a coward, one who brought about the fall of his land and the end of his lineage. He deserves no mercy, master.
Argos returns to playing his flute, and the song washes over the valley like a refreshing rain. He closes his eyes and takes his time as if insulting your presence. The pelt he wears sways with the wind. You hold your ground looking up at the snake atop the statue. You're not used to dealing with people this difficult in your line of work. At least not directly. You feel like you're out of your element trying to negotiate with this snake. You hold your tongue. After he finishes his song, he looks down to you again.
Well, what is it? You want the mirror? I made you an offer. Give me 2 minutes with the heifer and I'll consider giving it to you. If you'll not take it, I have no reason to deal with you. I may serve the labyrinth's mission, but I am not bound to your will. I need not follow your demands. However, if the master will not take my first offer, I suppose there is one thing I want that may be palatable to you. You see, my good master, I am an entity of the labyrinth. This earth begat me. I am born from the divine, but even I have needs.
With the previous masters, I've had fine arrangements which have turned into fruitful partnerships, even if we disagreed on this whole hotel thing. Perhaps I should cut to the point, eh? I shall offer you a contract. It is exactly what it would seem to be, a piece of parchment setting down rules and effects. You see, Master, I may be half divine, but I need food and water. For decades now, I've scavenged this land because Master Clermont left without negotiating his terms with me. The contract is clear. You will bequeath to me a fragment of your power, so I may summon food, water, and shelter. I've tired of living off this barren land. As payment for your mercy, I shall give you this divine artifact, used to light the holy flames of the hearth. I'd say it's quite the fair exchange. You will have your comfortable lair, and so will I. Save for Clermont, whose reign was frightfully short, all of the masters have signed this term. I've been useful to them all, as I shall be for you and you for me. We can be good, gentlemanly neighbours. The contract also has a non-aggression clause. I shall not hurt you, you shall not hurt me. It is a self-enforcing agreement. We'll both find ourselves unable to break it. The laws here, you see, apply themselves. Contracts are very powerful. On the off chance one of us somehow breaks one of the terms, then our pact is terminated. I lose the powers bequeathed to me, and your hotel's hearth will go out. The trinket reverts back to my ownership. It is a most fair agreement, I'd say.
Argos hands the parchment to you. It reads, "This document binds the master of the labyrinth and the snake known as Argos Panoptes, henceforth referred to as the Foreman, together in an agreement. Article 1. The master leases the Foreman the authority to summon food, water, shelter, and furniture for use however he sees fit, including for the benefit of cultivation of crops and raising of animals. In return, the Foreman leases the Mirror of Hestia for the master's use however he sees fit, including for the benefit and maintenance of the structure known as the Hotel, as established in previous contracts. Article 2. The master and the lessee shall refrain from bringing harm to the other, directly and indirectly, by means including, but not limited to, violence, incentivizing or rewarding third parties towards aggression against the other, sabotaging structures, poisoning food and water, among others. Article 3. The master is forbidden from directly and indirectly interfering with the full enjoyment of the Foreman's rights granted under this contract. The Foreman is similarly forbidden from bringing harm to the hotel. Article 4. The master is allowed to conduct inspections on the Foreman's accommodations, save the Foreman's personal quarters, whose access is forbidden. The Foreman is forbidden from conspiring against the master and shall not use the rights granted by this contract to bring him harm. The master and Foreman are symmetrically bound by this article, including but not limited to using Hestia's mirror to bring harm to the Foreman. Article 5. This contract is self-enforcing. If any of its articles are broken, then possession of Hestia's mirror reverts to the Foreman, and any flame lit by the mirror is put out. At the same time, the Foreman loses the rights transferred by the contract, and any and all structures summoned by him cease to exist after a 10-minute interval to allow for evacuation. Article 6. This self-enforcing contract is made effective the moment of its signing, and remains valid during the master's reign until the following master acquires the hotel's deed. By the will of the master to whom the Olympian's reign over the realm was granted, this contract is established. Can you sign it? And we'll have got Article 5. Could our snaky friend here break it and get the Mirror of Hestia back to himself? I'm not too sure about that one, so I'd need to say no. There's something suspect about this contract. To be honest, a lot of it is a bit fishy, but Argos' gaze is fixed on you, subtly shifting to follow each and every change in her eyes. I'm sorry, but I don't quite agree with these terms here. Argos takes the contract from your hands and reads it over carefully. You'll have to forgive me, Master. I don't see any issues. Nonetheless, I suppose I can give you some time to think it over while I draft another offer. Hopefully it'll be to your liking. Now, you must be eager to get that hotel of yours back up and running. How about I loan you the mirror while I go and do that? You may use it until my return. I'll call you with my flute. Should you not sign the contract then, however, this little trinket will revert back to me. Master can take this as a gesture of goodwill from his follower. You and Argos establish a pact and shake hands. You return to the hotel with Hestia's mirror in hand. As we go back into the cave, it's chapter 5, and I think this is a good point to leave it for this episode. So we'll pick up chapter 5 before too long, and let's see what happens to the hotel and to Asterion when we light the mirror of Hestia and get the hearth going. I think it's going to be interesting. I hope you're enjoying this VN. I really like this. I definitely want to see what happens. I think we'll probably get to the end of the current update in a couple of videos, so we'll see it then. It's up to the rest of them who are working on it. Do more. Get working, guys. Anyway, thanks for listening, and thanks to the Minotaur Hotel team for doing this. Really appreciate it. I'm enjoying it. Until next time, because I don't know of an ancient Greek way to say goodbye, bye for now.